Let's take a look at the history of flags. First, let's look at the American flag. America stands as one of history's most successful nations. Its red, white, and blue flag is recognized worldwide, respected by some, hated by others. To many, it's a symbol of freedom. To others, a symbol of oppression. This flag waves not only over American buildings, but also across 700 military bases in 60 countries, where 250,000 troops are stationed. For some in those nations, it's a reminder that their security partially depends on another country. For critics, it's a mark of force and domination. This flag stirs very different emotions in Poland than it does in Iraq. A Japanese fisherman would likely prefer seeing this flag on a passing naval ship over one bearing China's colors. But whatever perspective, one thing is clear. America's reach across the world is undeniable. A long history of wars and politics has created ties that cannot simply be undone. Americans revere their flag in a way rarely seen elsewhere. These three colors form the core symbol of national identity. When Neil Armstrong planted the American flag on the moon, it became a milestone in human history. Every morning in schools across the country, children recite the Pledge of Allegiance. Hand over heart, they say, "I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." This pledge was written in 1892 and gradually spread nationwide. After the Civil War, it helped give the country a unified national identity. Through this pledge, a broken nation found loyalty and unity. From that time until today, generations of Americans have stood each morning, hand on heart, recognizing the symbol of their country. The National Flag Code was adopted in 1923 and approved by Congress in 1942. No other modern democracy has anything quite like this. The flag comes with its own rituals. In schools, offices, and government buildings where it flies, it must be lowered before evening. It's carefully brought down, making sure it never touches the ground. But where extra patriotism is needed, it can fly 24 hours a day, provided the area remains lit. The flag never waves in darkness. It took 183 years for this flag to reach its current form. Its earliest version began taking shape in the 1760s, before the nation itself was born. In 1773, America rebelled against Britain's tea tax. In Boston, a group called the Sons of Liberty threw 342 chests of tea from a ship into the harbor. They used a flag with 9 red and white stripes. Today's American flag evolved from that beginning. During the Revolutionary War against Britain, soldiers used a flag with 13 red and white stripes representing the 13 rebel colonies. Congress declared independence on July 4th, 1776. 1 year later, the first flag law was passed. It featured 13 white and red stripes, along with 13 white stars on a blue background, representing the 13 free colonies. Why these three colors? There was no particular reason at the time, though reasons were created later. These colors are also used on official documents and passports. A few years later, a problem emerged. In 1791, Vermont joined the Union as a new state. The following year, Kentucky did the same. A new law was passed in 1794 stating that each new state would add 1 stripe and 1 star to flag. New states kept joining, and by 1818, the flag would start to look like a zebra because there were 18 states, with 2 more waiting to join. That's when the third law was passed. It restored the flag to 13 stripes, but kept the addition of a star for each new state. The next flag law came in 1912, when 48 states had joined. The question was how to arrange the stars. This law established a method. After that, 2 more states joined, creating the 50-star flag we use today. America's national anthem resulted from a conflict between Britain and France that spilled over to America. The American president saw an opportunity and declared war on Britain in 1812. But Napoleon quickly lost the war in Europe, and Britain turned its attention to America. British forces had already reduced the White House to ashes in 1814. On September 13, 1814, the British Navy launched a massive attack on Baltimore, aiming to destroy the defensive fort. For 25 hours straight, they fired 1,500 bombs and 800 rockets. But the attack failed. The fort and its defenses held. Through the smoke of gunfire, the American flag kept waving. Francis Scott Key was imprisoned on a British naval ship, watching it all unfold. From the deck of that warship, he wrote verses that would become America's national anthem. And the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. The first verse ends with a powerful question. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave over the land of free and the home of the brave? Within weeks, his verses spread from Baltimore across the entire nation. In the years that followed, it became woven into the American identity itself. The flag that flew over Fort McHenry was placed in a museum in 1907. It's now preserved in a special chamber with low oxygen and minimal light, protecting this piece of history for future generations. The Civil War raged from 1861 to 1865. The Northern States Army carried the stars and stripes, while the Southern states had several flags, the most famous being Confederate battle flag, a red cloth with a blue cross containing stars. The North won the war. Even today, some Southern states still use this flag in memorial events. The Southern states opposed ending slavery, which later attached a racist stigma to their flag. Interestingly, this wasn't the case before the 1940s. After World War I, white supremacist groups gained strength, particularly in the South, and they adopted this flag as their symbol of identity. This created a negative association that made the flag controversial. On one hand, it's a symbol of culture, heritage, and pride. On the other, it carries a stain of racist groups who used it. Though Southern states have officially used it, it could never match the acceptance of the official American flag. The laws and customs surrounding the American flag are complex enough to fill an entire book. But here are some examples, many of which are federal laws. When the national anthem plays and the flag is displayed, American citizens must stand with their right hand over their heart. If you're in uniform, you salute as the music begins and hold that position until it ends. The law states that the flag must not be disrespected in any way. If it's hung across the street, it must be vertical with the stars facing north or east. It must never touch any building, ground, tree, or bush. These instructions go on for pages, including details like, if draped over a casket, the union should be at the head and over the left shoulder. It will not be lowered into the grave or allowed to touch the ground. The flag shall not be used for advertising purposes. The flag represents a living country and should be considered a living thing. If worn as a pin on clothing, it should be placed on the left side near the heart. While these laws aren't always strictly followed, these guidelines reveal the attitude toward the flag, especially in the American military. The ceremonies for folding and lowering the flag are deeply ceremonial. There are even codes for cleaning the flag and instructions for the retirement ceremony of old flags. The disposal ceremony includes guidance on opening prayers, participant behavior, and the addition of an empty chair. For volunteers hold it at the four corners, one cuts it with scissors, and one collects the cut pieces. A fire is lit, and a flag is respectfully burned and destroyed. Most Americans have never participated in a flag retirement ceremony, and many would call it a pointless ritual. But there's been general agreement on respecting the flag. Then came the Vietnam War. Anti-war protesters demonstrated against the war and government burning, cutting, trampling, or defacing American flags. In 1968, Congress passed a law making such actions a crime. It was applied in 1984 to a man who burned a flag in Texas while protesting against Reagan. He was sentenced to 1 year in prison for this crime. He appealed the sentence, and it eventually reached the Supreme Court. In 1989, the Supreme Court ruled that under free speech laws, no punishment could be given for burning the flag. This remains politically controversial to this day. Looking at the rest of the world, flag respect laws vary widely. Authoritarian regimes and dictatorships tend to enforce stricter rules about flag respect. Among Western nations, Britain, Australia, Canada, Japan, and Belgium have no such laws, while Germany, Italy, France, New Zealand, Mexico, Croatia, and Austria do. Germany has the strictest penalties, with up to 3 years imprisonment, the same as China. In France, the sentence is up to 6 months. Cultural traditions about flag display also differ across countries. In Sweden, for instance, enthusiastic national flag displays are considered unnecessary and sometimes even rude. In Britain and several other nations, there have been periods when ordinary citizens avoid displaying their flag to avoid being perceived as right-wing extremists. America sells 50 million flags annually. And here's the interesting part. A large number of them are imported from China. Several states want to make it mandatory that American flags be manufactured in America. Minnesota has enacted legislation where selling an imported flag can result in a $1,000 fine and 3 months imprisonment for the shopkeeper. This flag, with all its history, controversy, and symbolism, continues to wave over a nation still defining what it means to be American. From the revolutionary battles that birthed it to modern debates about what it represents, this piece of cloth carries the weight of a nation's identity, its triumphs, its failures, and its ongoing journey toward the ideals written into that pledge recited by school children every morning. Liberty and justice for all.